Nicholas Joseph Fuentes is a controversial right-wing political commentator from Chicago, Illinois. We've discussed him before on the channel a few times, but he's never received a video of his own. So today I decided we would take a deep dive into his lore, as I find the Nick Fuentes lore to be some of the most fascinating lore of any online figure I've encountered. If you don't know how an iceberg meme works, at the very top of the image, or rather the iceberg, is the most well-known information. But as you go down the image, or rather the iceberg, the more esoteric and obscure the information becomes. The iceberg I am going to be using today is broken into 6 parts. I created this iceberg, but originally I was going to use an iceberg Nick himself posted onto his Twitter account in 2019, but I decided not to use that because I think my iceberg is better. Obviously. And I decided to go against using his iceberg because I feel it is kind of outdated. And I want to make a longer video, so now that we got that out of the way, I guess we could begin, but I just want to, make it obvious I don't endorse everything in this video. I think that should be obvious, but, some people don't have, brain capacity to, understand that. This is just for documentation, educational, and entertainment purposes. Now we can begin. Tip of the iceberg. White nationalist. White nationalist is a label that's been attached to Nick Fuentes' name for many years at this point. It's so attached to him, you would think that's what he calls himself at this point, although it's just an accusation that he denies. Nick has always described himself as either a conservative, a paleo-conservative, which is just an old-school conservative or a more extreme conservative, or as an American nationalist. Other accusations that are thrown Nick's way that are similar to the white nationalist claim are white supremacist, neo-Nazi, and alt-right. The white nationalist label started being closely associated with Nick and really started sticking with him after an article was published by Right Wing Watch in May 2018 called "Nick Fuentes Denies Being a White Nationalist" by explaining that he's a white nationalist. The article highlights a stream appearance by Nick Fuentes on a show hosted by a guy named JF, in which he was joined by white nationalist Richard Spencer, who is famous for creating the alt-right as we know it today. Nick voices his frustration with Right Wing Watch calling him a white nationalist and says he doesn't use the term due to negative connotations it has, and he explains that he is just simply a white person who is also a nationalist. Nick Fuentes would later respond to this allegation in a speech given at Iowa State in 2019.
So, in this article here, it says white nationalist Nicholas Fuentes likely coming to Iowa State Wednesday, sources say. In the first paragraph here, it says, Nicholas Fuentes, host of America First, who has said he could be accurately described as a white nationalist, as he is both white and a nationalist. So where they derive this allegation is in a live stream. Somebody said, "Are you a white nationalist?" I said, "Well, I am a nationalist who happens to be white." And of course, these are different things. If you don't believe me, I'll explain. A white nationalist believes that the United States should be an all-white country. And how do you achieve that in a country that is not all white? Well, violence and other things. That is not what I believe. And people have said, "Oh, Nick Fuentes believes in an ethno-state. He's a white." I have never subscribed to that ideology. I said, I am a nationalist who happens to be white. And that's how they concoct this libel. Now, they later say in the article...
Can you tell us so what is your version of a white nationalist?
I'm a nationalist as opposed to a white nationalist. And as a nationalist, I simply believe that the interests of American citizens should be put first.
Cookie joke / Holocaust denial. The accusation of Holocaust denial comes from a live stream in which Nick responds to a donator.
Max says, if I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens, working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. Certainly, oh, no. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies.
Nick claims this response was just ironic and it was just a joke. Ben Shapiro would later give a speech about Nick Fuentes and quote the segment from his show.
You have some questions. You do.
No, I would never question the Holocaust.
Like this, a direct quote from a lead influencer in the alt-right.
Me.
Says,
I'm not in the
if
alt-right.
I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. No, that doesn't sound really correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to build a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right, doing 24 hours a day for 5 years. How long would it take to get to 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. None of it really adds up. None of it really makes sense. This crazy cookie analogy. 6 million cookies? Nah, I don't buy it. That's all irony. I'm an irony bro.
Ben Shapiro said irony, bro.
Groyper War. The Groyper War, or Groyper Wars, was a series of events in 2019 in which Nick Fuentes sent his fans to mainstream conservative events to ask controversial questions, most famously about immigration in Israel. His main target being Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA. TPUSA is an American conservative youth group or organization that Nick Fuentes sees as not conservative enough. Kirk would seemingly try to avoid mentioning or acknowledging Nick and downplay him as a troll, although he would later host an event with a TV in which he played a clip of Fuentes when he was just 17 years old criticizing Trump. Kirk would then get made fun of.
America first! America first! America first! America first! America first! America first! America first!
The Groyper Wars would receive mainstream news attention after Nick's fans booed Donald Trump Jr. off the stage when he was giving a speech about his new book called Triggered. Very original, Donald Trump Jr. Very original, very funny.
A time where conservatives have disrupted even the furthest leftists on a college campus, right? It doesn't happen that way. We're willing to listen. We're willing to listen. See what I mean? And that is the problem. And the reason oftentimes it doesn't make sense to do the Q&A is not because we're not willing to talk about the questions, because we do. No. It's because people hijack it with nonsense looking to go for some sort of soundbite. You have people spreading nonsense, spreading hate to try to take over that room. That's the real issue with the room.
Because you're not making your parents proud by being rude and disruptive and discourteous. We are happy to answer a question. Respect the people around you so that they can hear. You don't play by the same rules. Let me tell you something. I bet you engage and go on online dating because you're impressing no one here to get a date in person.
Unite the Right. Unite the Right was an infamous event in which one counter-protester died. The event was run by lead alt-right figures. The event was organized by alt-right people, and it was protesting the removal of a Robert E. Lee statue. The concept was the alt-right would host this removal of the statue. They would get a bunch of normie, like conservatives and other right-wing types, like libertarians or whatever, and then they would expose them to their more extreme ideology. That was the concept of Unite the Right. Unite the Right would also basically be the end of the alt-right, so didn't go as planned. Nick would arrive in Charlottesville the day after the Tiki Torch March. He would go there to meet up with business affiliate James Alsop and also meet other people like Baked Alaska. When he returned from Unite the Right, he would receive death threats and would drop out of Boston University. This is where Nick would originally gain his mainstream attention, as he did interviews with the Associated Press and with the Today Show. Alongside that, he also had a Time magazine article written about him. Members of Congress. Multiple members of Congress or former members of Congress have been affiliated or associated with Nick Fuentes. Most famously or infamously being Paul Gosar, an Arizona representative in the House of Representatives. Paul would go as far as skipping voting to go to a Nick Fuentes event to speak at. Other members who have associated with Nick Fuentes being Senator Wendy Rogers and also former Representative Steve King. Paul Gosar has generated the most controversy due to his association with Nicholas Fuentes. When he posted an anime meme that AOC got mad at, she claimed he fundraises with neo-Nazis, which isn't true because one, Nick isn't a neo-Nazi, and also it appears the fundraising event she is referring to never actually happened. Stop the Steal. Nick Fuentes was a prominent speaker at Stop the Steal events leading up to the trespassing of the US Capitol. He was also present the day that it happened on January 6th, but he did not go inside despite what viral tweets say. Incel. Nicholas Fuentes is a self-identified incel, although it appears to be mostly tongue-in-cheek to a degree. Nick is more of a volcel than an incel. An incel is somebody who can't get into a relationship despite wanting to because there's something wrong with them, either they're disabled or they are ugly. Although, Nick appears to just not want to be in a relationship, so that means he's voluntarily celibate rather than involuntarily celibate. I hope I said that right. I fucking suck at pronouncing my L's. I didn't know I was saying my L's wrong my whole life until I made a TikTok that went viral and people pointed it out to me. I think I've gotten better at it, but I still struggle a little bit. You just got to bear with me, bitch. Nick is also a self-admitted virgin. This is because he is Catholic and he sees sex before marriage as a sin. A lot of people have made fun of Nick for this, although you will never see these people making fun of a Muslim or a Jew for doing the same thing when their religion requires it. Really weird. Quote-unquote respected Boston University alum. Nick Fuentes, being a self-proclaimed quote-unquote respected Boston University alum, is a tongue-in-cheek description of himself he put on his Twitter bio. It refers to the fact he left Boston University due to safety concerns after receiving death threats. Below the surface. Ben Shapiro encounter. In December 2019, following the Groyper Wars, Nick Fuentes would run into Ben Shapiro in public while Ben Shapiro was with his wife and kids. Nick would question Ben Shapiro about the speech he gave that we talked about previously. Afterwards, Nick would joke about Ben using his family as a human shield and then joke about how Ben doesn't like that when the Palestinians do that. This is pretty obviously a reference to the Israel and Palestinian conflict in Western Asia that Ben has taken the side of the Israelis on. Nick and Ben's encounter would be recorded and it would gain mainstream attention, with Nick trending on Twitter and him also being put on Fox News, or Fox Business to be exact. Christmas Eve 2019 was the date that Fox Business would run this segment about Nick and Ben Shapiro's encounter. During this segment, commentator Trish Reagan would say Nick Fuentes deserved to get punched in the face for, I guess, asking Ben Shapiro a question. Nick Fuentes isn't white. Nick Fuentes not being white refers to the fact that he has African and Native American ancestry. He has this ancestry due to the fact that he is Italian, which is Mediterranean, and the fact that he's also Mexican or Latino. Nick has used this to his advantage to avoid accusations of being a white nationalist. In an interview with Jesse Lee Peterson, Nick Fuentes states that the Afro-Latino in his Twitter bio is what he believes to be keeping him on the platform.
And are you an Afro-Latino?
That's correct.
What's an Afro-Latino? You look white to me.
Yeah, well, I get that a lot, actually. I'm 2% African, and I'm 25% Mexican. So I go by Afro-Latino. It helps me to not get banned from social media.
That's amazing.
No-fly list. Nick Fuentes being on a no-fly list was something he suspected for a little while. He chose to road trip to his annual conference instead of flying out in fear of him being on the no-fly list and him not being able to make it in time. He would learn for sure he was on the no-fly list after he tried flying out to an event to give a speech about censorship. Oh, the irony. Nick being put on the list would be a widely reported thing, and him getting a lot of sympathy even from those who criticized him and even slandered him. Some tried to argue Nick wasn't actually on the no-fly list, but rather, he got kicked from one flight and he was just only banned from one airline, although Nick flew multiple other times after that incident, so it couldn't have been him being kicked off for not wearing his mask properly. Praising the Taliban. A viral post from Nick's Gab account, which, if you don't know what Gab is, it's where you go after you get banned from Twitter. Which, follow me on Gab, by the way. I am now banned from Twitter. I'm the most recent Afro-Hispanic to be attacked by the racist white mob that is the Twitter staff. Anyways, where was I going with this? Alright, here's the viral post that was posted by Nick to his Gab account. The Taliban is going to ban abortions, vaccines, and gay marriage. Maybe we were fighting on the wrong side for 20 years. The post would be widely shared across Gab, and then it would be screenshotted and posted onto other social media websites where it gained even more attention. Deplatforming. Nick Fuentes has been described as the most banned person in America. There is a lengthy list of websites he's been deplatformed from, but here's a shortened one just to get the gist of it. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, PayPal, Stripe, Reddit, DLive, Clubhouse, Streamlabs, and so many more places. Not to mention the previously mentioned no-fly list. Banned from CPAC. Nick has been banned from attending CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Conference, and other conservative events for a few years. He always does show up to these events, however, to cause a scene. At a TPUSA event, he was detained. At one CPAC event in 2019, he snuck in with a fake pass and then fled after security guards with guns started looking for him.
So I saw Alec, and he made some jib about how I'm short or something. And I pulled him aside. I said, look, maybe it's time you start sticking up for your own people instead of taking money from Jews. And I don't know, was that out of line? Was that a little bit, was that too controversial? Did I hit him too hard? I guess he didn't like that I said that. And so I'm making my way around the conference. We're kind of, you know, shaking hands, just seeing what's up. And I'm having a good time. We're laughing. I'm talking to the Turning Point people. I'm making jokes. We're all having a good time. And Alex Sears comes over with security. He calls security on me because he knows that I'm kicked out because his boss got me kicked out. And so the security guard, he comes up to me and he says, hey, Nick Fuentes, you're going to have to come talk with me. I said, well, can you give me one moment? I'd just like to take a few pictures here. He said, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. And so they're taking pictures. And then I realized the name on my badge, I had a different name on my badge. It was Nick something, a different last name. It was like Nick Williams or something. So I got my picture taken and they said, hey, wait a minute. You said Nick Fuentes, right? He's like, yeah. I said, I don't know who that is. Nick Fuentes. I'm Nick Williams. I'm this other Nick. I'm this different guy. I've never heard of Nick Fuentes. Who is that? I assume you're having some problem. I don't know who that is. And the security guard said, oh, okay, you're fine. Then he turns to go away. And all these, I think there were trans people, other people just like chimping out. No, that's the real Nick Fuentes. We booked it out of there. We ran up the escalator, down the hall, up the elevator. And we escaped. Apparently there's this big security fiasco. Security guards, I was told, are running down the escalator to the exhibition hall, hands on their guns, because people are saying there's like this white nationalist loose. They've got pictures of me on their phones. Everyone's, all this commotion, all this drama, and for what? Because I'm just a regular, authentic conservative? Yeah, I don't want the country to become Africa. I don't want the country to become Mexico. I guess that means I'm some sort of security threat.
AFPAC. The America First Political Action Conference is a rival to CPAC that Nick hosts. Many of Nick's opponents have praised Nick for the professionalism of these events and with the impressive guest list.
Maybe you shouldn't have burned that bridge, Nick. Holy shit. I thought you were like a little bit more politically effective. That's really sad. Well, I hope that you guys make up in the future. Maybe it'll help you boost your channel a little bit more.
We already did make up. I had him on my show a couple of months ago.
Oh shit. You should try to get some help from him so that you could be a little bit more of a relevant voice on the internet rather than like last hour call-in, the desperation move, and then they don't fucking do anything with it. Here's a question. Can you think of a single lefty on the internet that has been as politically effective as Nick Fuentes? And Nick Fuentes is banned off of like 20 different fucking platforms. And he's got people on the fucking streets, groypers, that are going to fucking conferences with Charlie Kirk. Like people that are getting like mainstream headlines, right? Like, where the fuck are the lefties at for this type of shit? Right? Like what?
How?
Wait,
How are you going to do that?
is this his own conference? He is the brand America First, right? How many people like, why are conservatives so much better at politics? No, it's not conservatives, it's just him. This guy is uniquely. How many people attended this? Is there any more information on this? Gozar, Jesus. What state is this guy from? Arizona. Literally chilling with a Nazi.
including famous conservatives like Michelle Malkin and actual elected officials. Boogers. Nick Fuentes has been accused of picking his nose and eating his boogers on a live stream. This allegation comes from Vic Berger, a left-wing video editor. His proof is an old live stream clip and another clip where Nick gets a nosebleed. Nosebleeds are known to be caused by nose picking. Nick claims this is false and he was just scratching in the frequently cited clip.
People have claimed, I don't know if you've seen this, Vic Berger, among others, one of these callers has said that on one of the America First shows over a year ago, that I picked my nose. It's a scratch from the outside, and then it's, But if you look at the angle is coming in from here. The angle is, how can you pick your nose at this angle? You simply can't.
This claim would also be promoted by video essayist commentary channel Turkey Tom back in the day, and Nick would block him. I even remember a meme Tom made. In the meme, he shows a clip of him super chatting Nick, asking to be unblocked on Twitter. I could not find this clip. All I can find nowadays to support this claim is an old comment Tom left on a re-upload of the alleged booger eating clip in a video where Nick references what I'm talking about, but not specifically.
You know, I like the guy. I like his content. He's a good content creator, very funny guy. He used to give me a hard time, and I thought he didn't like me, but then I realized he was just trolling me, and since then I've enjoyed his stuff.
Bitcoin donation. Leading up to January 6th, Nick Fuentes would receive a nearly $500,000 Bitcoin donation from a French programmer who would later commit suicide. Nick's bank account would be frozen by the federal government into the depths. Catboy/gay conspiracy. Nick Fuentes secretly being gay and having a fetish for catboys or femboys is a long-running conspiracy. It would stay mostly underground and only known among right-wing circles who didn't like Nick. That was until rising leftist streamer Vosh caught wind of this and blasted all the evidence to a more mainstream audience that they had collected. I assume he got this information from a poll thread, as I refuse to believe Vosh even spends even more than an hour researching a topic. Like, you really think he spends hours watching archive.org re-uploads of Nick until he found a segment he could show to promote this conspiracy theory? He also couldn't have used Kiwi Farms to obtain this information, as this video predates Nick's Kiwi thread by 4 days. The case against Nick is the following: a Catboy channel on his Discord server in which Nick appears to have taken a part in. Nick claims his account was hacked and his audience was just joking around.
I get killed about it on Gab, where people are like, we've discovered this top secret thing that nobody's heard about. Nick Fuentes tweets about Catboys. You know, in my public server, in a public channel on my public server, we were posting about Catboys, and I was hacked. But we're posting about it, and they're posting, the Wignats, you know, these unemployed, bald losers are posting on Gab, we figured him out, we've got him, he's Jewish, he's this, he's that. And it's like, you know, fellas, it's a meme, you dip, as they say. So I can't catch a break. I can't catch a break. They call me everything in the book. It's very hard being a right-wingy. I have the hardest life. It's very difficult.
How's your search been for Catboys who will bully you? Is that going any good?
I don't know what you're referring to. I believe you're referring to a fake image. Either that or I was hacked, but I have no idea what you're talking about, really.
Alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I saw a lot of people have been giving me crap about that on Gab, but sorry to say, I was hacked. I was hacked. Every time... That's the thing, I'm the number one victim of hacking. It's worse than anybody else. You talk about election hacking, you talk about the Russians or the Turks. I'm the number one victim of hacking. Not only do they hack my Twitter, and they post lewd things about Catboys, but also, every time there's a picture of me, people edit it to make it look like I'm much shorter and smaller than I am. I'm actually 6'9".
Him awkwardly somewhat defending femboys.
Are traps gay? Yeah, traps are gay. I've always maintained traps are gay, of course. You have sex with a man, it's gay. There's no getting around that. Now that said, look, it's gay, I get it, 100%, I agree. Now that said, it's, we're in times where women are not really meeting their obligations. So I'm not saying you're not. Look, if you have sex with a trap, you're gay. No doubt about that. You should be ridiculed. You should be made fun of. But it's a little bit different than if you did it like 20 years ago. That's all I'm saying. If you in the 1960s were banging a trap, I would say, what's wrong with you? Like, I would say that now. I would say, well, you're some kind of sick freak. We have all these beautiful girls, and they're normal, and you have sex with a trap. What's wrong with you? But in 2019, it's like, well, it's different. It's a different circumstance, different options. You're still disavowed. I disavow. It's condemned. It's gay. It's all that. But, it's just different. I think everybody understands that.
A live stream he did with a provocateur who cross-dressed previously and wore cat ears on the stream with Nick. Him interacting with a trans girl Twitter account, including liking her feet pictures. He has a femboy mask, an alleged screenshot in which he was following a gay account on his new Instagram ban evasion account. Him complimenting comedian BG Cumby's body.
Before I went live, you had 999 followers on... What is going on? Oh, boy. I saw you were at 999 on Twitter. You're about to get the patented Fuentes bump on Twitter. Bump. You got a good physique, I will say. I watched your video where you defended Amy Schumer. And I was like, I thought you were just ironic, but you actually had a good physique. And I was like, what? Like, there was a dissonance about that. Because usually you look at a Sam Hyde, you look at these other characters, and it's a little bit sloppy. But I will say, I do appreciate the physique. By the way, are you Catholic?
An anime opinion we will discuss later. And while I was making this video, he hosted a segment on his show defending his virginity.
What, people calling me gay because I've never had a girlfriend? I think if anything, it makes me less gay. If anything, it makes me not gay. As opposed to less gay. Not that there's any gay, but it makes me not gay. Well, because think about it this way. Gay people do date girls all the time. Real. And when I said on Elijah Schaefer's show, when they said, have you ever been in a romantic relationship? Have you ever had sex with a girl? And I said, no. If you name searched me on Twitter, as I always do, all these gay people are coming out and saying, I've had more girlfriends than Nick. I've had sex with more girls than Nick. So like I said last week, not only is that thinking flawed, but actually it's the reverse. That actually makes me really more heterosexual than anybody. If we're really being honest, never having a girlfriend, never having sex with a woman really makes you more heterosexual, because honestly, dating women is gay. Having sex with women is gay. And having sex with men is gay. And it's all gay. And if you want to know the truth, the only really straight heterosexual position is to be an asexual incel. That's it. So that's all there is. Being a MGTOW asexual incel is really the straightest position that you can have. Having sex in itself is gay, I think. I think that it's really a gay act to begin with. Think about it this way. What's gayer than being like, I need cuddles, I need kisses, I need it's all very sus to me, I need to spend time with a woman. That's a little sus. It's a little bit sus. So I think really, I'm like, the straightest guy that ever lived, probably.
Nick denies the allegations or accusations or whatever word is more semantically accurate. Train wrecks. In 2019, Nick Fuentes would be a part of a huge debate panel run by streamer Trainwrecks. He would be joined by Sargon of Akkad, Hassan Piker, Destiny, and Osmogold. This was a very popular debate that currently has over 1 million views on YouTube. The panel was originally hosted live on Twitch, and Nick would be banned from Twitch shortly after the panel. Base Department. Hello X Department is/was a popular snow clone made popular by Nick Fuentes. You can find it being used by people who hate Nick, like Vosh. Nick is even credited with this on Know Your Meme. Anti-race mixing. A controversial and some would say hypocritical position of Nick's is that he is against race mixing. One of these statements comes from a leaked video.
Would you say that me having sex with my dog is the same thing as me having sex with a black man?
No. But they would both be degenerate.
Kathy Zhu. Kathy Zhu was once a very popular Chinese-American conservative, although she's fallen out of the public eye in recent times. Her rise to prominence was due to her title of Miss Michigan Beauty Queen being stripped from her due to her conservative views in 2019. At her peak, she was verified on Instagram and had well over 100,000 Twitter followers. Well, at some point she started hanging out with Nick Fuentes. I believe this photo in what appears to be September 2019 was where this young love started to bloom. A lot of people would meme about this relationship. Nick was famous for hating on e-girls and telling his audience to stay away while also being anti-race mixing. But was Nick the knife about to fall head over heels in love with a beautiful Eastern lady? The answer being Nick and Kathy would post about each other, but this would not last long. Kathy got upset over Nick's fans making fun of her, some of them were being racist, and got really upset with him. She then got even more upset when he refused to tell his fans to stop, saying he didn't want to look like a cringe simp. Nick defended himself and his fans by saying he did the quote-unquote eyes to her and she laughed. Apparently, she was also upset with him because she learned his stance on race mixing. It was forbidden love. Kathy and Nick's relationship would become an ongoing meme on his show.
Just marry Kathy Zhu and let her teach you martial arts. That would be, now that, okay. No, you can't think about that. That would be something. Kathy Zhu in the dojo, and she's sitting there, and she's got the karate outfit on. Teach me the ways, Kathy. Kathy Zhu would be like, whoa. Kathy Zhu, man, she'd be kicking my ass up and down International Boulevard in Orlando, Florida. Karate chop me in the back of the head. She's a threat. She's a threat. That's why I had to make amends with her at CPAC. I was like, she's dangerous, man. She's going to chop me in half. She's going to chop me in half.
Apparently, she tried contacting him during Stop the Steal, but I don't think anything came from that. Internet Blood Sports. Internet Blood Sports was a series of political debate streams where right-wing e-celebrities would have autistic pissing matches amongst each other, and Nick Fuentes was somewhat popular in this crowd. Pieman did a whole video on it. It's 3 hours long. I have an 8-minute segment in it. So go check it out. I would just like to say I don't endorse everything Pieman says in this video. The only thing I fully endorse in that video is my section, which if you don't want to watch his video, which I think you should, but if you just want to see my section, it's also on my YouTube channel. America First Media fallout. America First Media was a company Nick Fuentes owned alongside, at the time, popular right-wing YouTuber James Alsop and someone named Matt. The company would fall apart, and a public fallout would occur. It would start with Nick hosting a Periscope stream where he accused Alsop of being unprofessional and lazy. Not only that, he would also accuse Alsop of basically doxing or being complicit in the doxing of his sister. James would then ban Nick from the Discord server they ran, and then Nick was kicked from his own company that he owned. James would then make his own video about the situation, which is now lost to time. All I could find that lives on from it are quotes in an article from a website called angrywhitemen.org, which is a pretty dumb name because right now they're talking about beef among a Mexican and an Asian, or a Hapa to be exact. Angry white men? Come on, man. James accuses Nick of lying and claims his sister's docs have been public on poll for a while. Then Nick and James would go on the Kill stream, a once popular internet blood sports stream, in which they fight some more and talk about lawsuits. Also, Nick claims James stole from him.
And then actually, here's even the most charming thing. One of my fans, a great fan, loved the guy, solid guy. He was a mutual friend of both of ours. He sent me a Christmas gift, but the P.O. box was in Washington, where you live.
and you have seized it. You refuse to send it to me, even though he has pleaded with you. Please, it was a very special gift I wanted to give to Nick, and you've stolen it because you refused to send it to me.
You're being very silly.
But that just goes to illustrate how low you are. It just goes to illustrate how low that you go. That you want to
illustrate that it is an ongoing litigation, Nick. It serves to illustrate that when you're litigating, right, you don't just start mailing people things. You don't start mailing the opposition things.
Right.
It's sitting around. You'll get it back, Nick. You'll get it back. You just gotta be a little bit patient.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I think you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I hope you're really pleased with the choices you've made, the decisions you've made.
I absolutely am.
This drama would even reach Keemstar. Destiny. Destiny is a popular liberal streamer Nick Fuentes has had many debates with, many of which are very popular and have a lot of views on YouTube. Nick has somewhat recently become convinced Destiny is becoming a groyper due to controversial statements Destiny has made on topics like transgenderism. Women shouldn't say bad words. Women shouldn't say bad words, retweet if you agree, was a tweet that Nick made in which he got ratioed into oblivion. He got ratioed so hard, articles were written by non-political news sites covering it. Deeper than thought possible. He Will Not Divide Us. He Will Not Divide Us was a failed art project run by Shia LaBeouf. The idea was it was a live stream where Trump protesters could voice their frustrations. It would be overtaken and shut down by right-wingers. A lot of people forget Nick Fuentes would actually make an appearance on the stream, although no one really cared as Nick wasn't popular at the time, nor did he do anything noteworthy. Sam Hyde collaboration. Nick Fuentes would meet Sam Hyde at He Will Not Divide Us. A few years later, Nick Fuentes would join Sam Hyde in a surprise collaboration called QAnon Exposed by Sam Hyde. This collaboration was to advertise Sam's new Twitter account, @Wigger. Beef with journalists. Most people don't remember the names of the journalists whose articles they read, but Nick and his audience know some of their names. Nick has beef with many journalists for writing mean articles on him, the most infamous of which being Jared Holt, who has somewhat frequently gone on CNN. TikTok Wars. The TikTok Wars was a short-lived attempt to invade TikTok with Nick's ideology. Nick would be banned just after a few posts along with other affiliates of his due to pressure from journalists. The most memorable thing to come out of this was when Nick got multiple of his fans' accounts banned, so he would log into one of their accounts, stream, get banned after a few minutes, log into another one, and repeat the cycle. Wignats. Wignat, or Wigger nationalist, is an insult for white nationalists made popular by Nick Fuentes. He uses this term to attack white nationalists, or just those he doesn't like, who sort of fit into that category, or at least that's how he perceives them. Cassie Dillon. Cassie Dillon is a conservative figure who used to be friends with Nick. There was also some alleged feelings involved and something about a Christmas party.
Can I talk to you about a couple conspiracy theories about you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there's a conspiracy theory about you that you were in love with Cassie Dillon and she rejected you, and so you're angry at her and the other wire. Were you ever in love with Cassie Dillon?
I was never in love. I could not fall in love with somebody that doesn't have any lips. I will say that. And Cassie Dillon, if you ever watch any of the footage of me and her, it was clearly the other way around. I've told the story a million times. Cassie, the Christmas party. Anybody remember that? She knows what I'm talking about. So, no, I was never really interested in her, but I think she might have been interested in me.
I don't know too much about it other than the fact Nick used to sell a Kanye West The Life of Pablo inspired parody shirt with him at a Christmas party with, I think, Cassie Dillon. RSBN, or Right Side Broadcasting Network, was where Nick originally started his show America First. It was streamed onto their YouTube channel. His stint with them would not last long. He would be kicked after comments about hanging journalists and going to unite the right. Brittany Venti. Brittany Venti was yet another e-girl Nick was friendly with. To be honest, I don't really know what happened here, nor could I find a good source. All I know is Brittany liked him at first, and vice versa. Nick went on her show, she became a meme in his community like Kathy Zhu did, and now she doesn't like him anymore. Oh, and I think they got lunch once together. I don't know if I'm misremembering something. I could have sworn I saw a clip where Nick said he met Brittany Venti for lunch and she like burped really loudly or something. I don't know. Hunter Avallone. Hunter Avallone is a former conservative turned left-of-center free thinker. Hunter's had many spats with Fuentes and many planned debates that he backed out of. I go more into the Hunter and Fuentes lore in the Hunter versus Fuentes section in my 1 hour-long video about the career of Hunter Avallone. Bottom of the iceberg, MTV. Nick Fuentes in February 2018 spent a week shooting with MTV to be on their series True Life. The episode was focusing on young political activists. The episode kept getting pushed back until it never aired. Although right after Nick went mainstream with the Groyper Wars, sections of this episode were aired in a documentary called White Supremacy Ruined My Life.
So it says a guy named Pete Ritchie and his boss, Jason Wolf, pitched an episode to me. And this is what happened. They emailed me back in like January or February of 2018, so almost 2 years ago. And they said, hey, we want to shoot an episode of MTV True Life. They were rebooting the series. It's an old series, but they were rebooting it, calling it MTV Now. And they said that all these different production companies were contracted by MTV, each to produce, or by Viacom, each to produce their own, like, show. And all these different production companies made their own show about, you know, their own MTV True Life episode. And a few of them actually aired. I think I might be able to look it up. True Life, yeah, True Life Now is the reboot. And yeah, if you see, they started airing these episodes in January of this year. And they came to me and they said, we want an episode about you. And it's about teenage political activists in the age of Trump. You'll be the young conservative. We'll bring on a young liberal. And they said, we're going to try and make you look good. We're going to try and make you look human, go over your day-to-day life, you know, make you sympathetic. I was like, no. I was like, actually, no. Pete emailed me later that week and offered me, so I said, I turned them down. Pete emailed me later that week and offered me a number of assurances that MTV would portray me in a good light and I would have some control or oversight over what was broadcast. After much consideration, I reluctantly agreed to participate in the show. Pete and a team from Carga 7 came to my house and filmed for a week, doing hours of interviews, B-roll. They filmed me doing my show and they covered my Periscope of an anti-gun rally in Chicago. This is what my mother texted to Pete Ritchie at the end of the shoot. Pete Ritchie says, it was a pleasure meeting all of you. There's a group text. February 12, 2018. It was a pleasure meeting you all in person, especially Al. I'll see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Same, Pete. This is my mom. You seem like a genuine person. We are relieved. See you then. Promise Al will be in boarding school. That's my dog. He was kind of misbehaving. This is what we're dealing with here, okay? So they come, they shoot for a week, and they shot hours of footage, hours of interviews. Interviews here. We went to a hotel and filmed interviews. They filmed me an interview in my car. They filmed me an interview at my school. They filmed me an interview at my other desk over there. They filmed me in, around my house. They filmed me in my bedroom. Not like doing bedroom things, but like, hey, just trying to get a change of scenery. So they filmed me for hours, just for context. I said, Jason Wolf followed up and said the MTV True Life episode will air on February 20th. The air date was pushed back several times until it was put off indefinitely, and needless to say, the episode never aired, but the footage from the shoot will premiere tonight. That happened tonight. And this is where we arrive to tonight. I say almost 2 years after a shoot for an episode of True Life, MTV has repackaged the footage into a mini documentary about white supremacy, which attempts to portray me as a spiritual successor to this low-IQ skinhead buffoon, conveniently right after Groyper Wars. And this is this clip. I said, at the time of the shoot, I was 19 years old and had only been doing my show for a year. I initially declined to do the show because I knew Jason Wolf and the media would not be kind to me, but I never imagined a farce like this. Obviously, I made a big mistake. This just goes to show how unscrupulous, vindictive, and evil the media is. They take deception to another level. MTV sat on this footage for 2 years, only to dump it after the Groyper Wars, in a naked and obvious attempt at character assassination. It won't work. Fuck the media.
Nick would voice his frustrations about this on Twitter, and he complained about it. His mom even wrote an email to the producers bashing them. Tim and Eric. Tim and Eric were once a very popular, edgy comedy duo on Adult Swim. They have since gained a lot of hate from right-wingers due to Tim allegedly getting Sam Hyde in $1 Million Extreme show World Peace canceled, among other things. Nick would one day call into Tim's show to argue with him and his co-hosts. One of these co-hosts was the previously mentioned Vic Berger. Evangelion. Neon Genesis Evangelion is a critically acclaimed and revolutionary anime. It's one of the most important anime to ever exist. This appears to be the only anime Nick has ever watched, and he seems to be a big fan. He's frequently referenced it over the years. A somewhat controversial opinion he's had regarding it is defending Shinji and Kaworu's relationship, which some have viewed as homosexual or at least having those undertones.
James says, hey Nick, kind of unrelated, but was hoping you could please clarify one of your views for me. On last night's show, you said you were a Rei fag. Can you please explain why you put Rei above Asuka and Misato? Thanks. Well, and I explained this last night. If you like Misato or Asuka, you have mental illness. Because Asuka and Misato are crazy. You know, the whole appeal of Asian women, aside from aesthetic reasons, is their femininity compared to Western women. Asuka is German, is she not? And am I right in that or am I wrong? I don't know. I haven't watched it in a long time. In any case, Misato is not very feminine. She's very boisterous and aggressive and domineering, and you know, and for that reason, I'm out. For that reason, it's got to be Rei every time. Rei was, when she was told to get in the robot, did she carry on and she bitch and moan or anything? She said, okay, I'll do it. She's bloody and bashed. She's on the stretcher. Okay, you got to get in the robot because Shinji doesn't want to. Okay. She just did it. I was going to give another what I used to say about NGE is that the real red pill choice is Kaworu. I used to say the real red pill choice is that, but in light of the Catboy thing, I can't make jokes like that anymore because then people are like, oh, well, really? Well, Nick said Kaworu was best girl in NGE, so I can't even make jokes like that. But hey, excuse me, Jeb, excuse me. But, and here's what I will say, excuse me, Vosh, excuse me. What I will say in defense of Kaworu is this. There is something to be said. Not about homosexuality. I'm not defending that. But there is something to be said, because it wasn't homosexual. Not until Rebuild 3, the Rebuild movie, the third one, did it get a little bit weird. It was a little weird in the series, but it wasn't ever explicitly sexual. What I will say is that there is something to, and I'm going to get myself in trouble once again, but I only tell the truth, Lobbyists, okay? I only tell the truth. There is something about the male bond. Now, obviously, Democrats and Jews and homosexuals themselves, this is an important point, have made an attempt to take all male bonding and male relationships and create this gay paranoia, this gay suspicion. And what this does is it undermines the ability of men to form friendships and bonds with each other. This is real, okay? Now, some people might say this is a cope or something, but this is true. We all know it. We all know that they undermine, like the Boy Scouts, for example. They undermine all male spaces. They undermine male friendship all the time with that kind of stuff. It's very legitimate. You can't play into that. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean that you're taking it soft on gay people, but it does mean that you have to understand that what is necessary for society is for male spaces, for the so-called manor bund, for strong male friendships. Now, the red pill there with Kaworu is to say Kaworu, in some ways, understood Shinji better than Misato, better than Asuka. Now, Rei and Shinji have a complementarity in being a boy and a girl, and Rei obviously has this thing where she is descended from, what is it? She comes from Shinji's mom, and I don't remember all the esoteric stuff. She's from Lilith or what, this thing, the first collision. I don't remember all the details, but there is the complementarity, the esoteric complementarity in the movie, but the complementarity between Rei and Shinji as boy and girl, which is intrinsic, but in some ways, Kaworu understands Shinji in a different way, and you might say a better way, because they're men. Now, that doesn't mean that there was any funny business in the series. In the rebuild, the third rebuild movie, it got a little bit uncomfortable, but that's the red pill there. And I used to say this. It was uncontroversial, and then the Catboy Cammy thing came out, and then it's like, oh, now you can't make any jokes. Now you can't make jokes, even if there's a point to it, even if there's a very prescient point to be made there. In any case. So that's Neon Genesis Evangelion. That's, if in case you don't know, that's an anime series. That's the only anime I've ever watched. I'm not even an anime guy. I don't even like anime that much. But in college, my friend was like, you gotta watch this, it'll change your life. And he totally oversold it. I mean, it was good, but he was like, you have to watch this now. My friend had a mental breakdown because it was so good. And I was like, really? He was like, dude, yeah. And this is one of my best friends. I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And you know, I'm like 20 episodes in, and he's like, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's not like melting my mind. And he's like, well, you gotta wait until episode 21. No, wait, actually 22. No, 23. No, you gotta wait until, now you gotta watch the movie at the end. And I'm like, okay, well, it's good, but it's a TV show. I mean, it's a good TV show, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is not like a life-altering experience. Anyway, that's the only anime I've ever watched. So don't get the impression if you don't watch the show very much and I'm like this weeb or anything. I'm not.
Boss Baby Incel. Boss Baby Incel, or Boss Baby Incel with a number after it, was a series of ban-evading accounts on Instagram. He's seemingly given up on making them, though. Patrick Casey fallout. Patrick Casey was an associate of Nick's for many years. He was once the leader of Identity Europa? I forget how you fucking say it. Later known as the American Identity Movement, or AIM. A far-right movement that I'm surprised Nick would even want to be remotely associated with. Patrick would host a stream in which he broke the news regarding the no-fly list, frozen bank account. He claimed he had been stabbed in the back and people from Nick's movement were trying to ruin his life. Patrick talks about how the January 6th investigation is the biggest the FBI has ever done, and that the FBI is investigating Nick and his America First movement. This would be a huge falling out for Nick and Patrick Casey. There was a lot of drama and people talking about it. All of this would happen leading up to Nick's annual conference, and Patrick was warning people not to go. AFPAC would end up being held, and it's been about a year and nothing bad seemed to have happened. If it was the honeypot event Patrick was hyping it up to be, I don't know. Nick Fuentes is a Fed. If you are involved in dissident politics, allegations of being a federal agent or helping the federal government in some way will certainly be coming your way at some point. These allegations have followed Nick forever. These really started to ramp up after Patrick's stream. Richard Spencer phone call. The Richard Spencer phone call refers to an alleged recorded phone call between Nick Fuentes and white nationalist Richard Spencer, in which Richard drunkenly calls Nick a racial slur towards Hispanics and then makes other racist comments towards him. He did this because Nick attacked Richard and insinuated he was a pedophile on Twitter.
They were doing these streams and
oh yeah, he got outed and he got fucked over. I know who you're talking about.
He talked about like child porn.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
like, oh, like yeah. For some people, like, and I don't want to relitigate that, but he said that, and I said I implied like that he was pro pedophile, and and he called me, and I didn't. Well, actually, you know what's really funny about this story? I don't think I've ever told this part of the story. So I did that tweet. I forgot about it. Like I went back on Discord, you know, whatever I was doing, and I got a call. I didn't recognize the number. I had just gotten doxxed that day. Somebody doxed my address like last year, 2018. And so I was kind of on edge. So an unknown number called me. It wasn't unknown, but it was a number that I didn't recognize. And I was like, oh, like, who is this? So I answered it and I didn't say anything because I was waiting to like hear the other person say hello and like whatever, and maybe say my name. And Rich Spencer was like, hello. And I didn't recognize the voice. So then he just hung up. I texted and I said, who is this? And he was like, "It's Richard Spencer." And I said, like,
there's the voice.
I think I said, I said, well, I said, "Oh, sorry. Like, I'm a little on edge because I got doxxed. Like, yeah, I'll call you back." So I called him, and it was so funny because I was just so casual. I had no idea. I forgot about the tweet. I was like, "Hey, Rich, what's up?" And he goes, "You fucking like piece of shit, mama." I was like, "Hey, Rich, like, what's up?" And I was just like, I was so caught off guard. I was like, "Oh, like, why are you mad at me? Like, what?" I go, "Okay, like, what's your problem?" And he's like, "That tweet, you called me a pedophile." And then I just started laughing, and I was like, "Fuck you! Like, you're done. Like, the movement doesn't belong to you anymore. You're going to hell. Like, fuck you!" Like, we got into it. It was just like a screaming match, and then he was like, "You're a spick, and then the next time I see you, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you." How he said at one point, he goes, "How hollow and wicked you are."
That's nice.
It was so, he did an impression. He was like, "Oh, Mr. Spencer."
No.
Mr. Spencer,
We
no.
have to win.
Mr. Spencer, no.
I wasn't even mad. I was just dying because it was just so funny.
As deep as we can go. Trip to Israel. Early in Nick's career, he claims he was offered a trip to Israel by people in Conservative Inc., presumably to make a business deal, although he didn't take it. The original simp. The original simp refers to one of Nick's former high school friends who claims he stopped hanging out with Nick due to a girl he was dating.
So, I've been simp-pilled before I was red-pilled on anything else. When I was in high school, my best friend was a simp. My best friend. In many ways, he was an adversary, but he was also my best friend. Freshman, sophomore year of high school, and we hung out all the time. We were neighbors. We never even knew we were neighbors. He lived a block away from me my whole life, and I never knew because he was in Catholic school and I was in public school. But we met in high school, and we were in Model UN together, and we were some of the best kids on the team, and he was bright and, funny guy, good guy. And we became fast friends, and we hung out all the time. We were at each other's houses and really had a close and fruitful friendship. And then what happened is, sophomore year at the turnaround dance, he got asked to go to the dance by this girl who I never cared for, who I never liked. I never even thought she was that pretty. She was, she wasn't gross. She was okay. She had big boobs, if you want to know the truth, and that was nice. But she had man hands, and her face wasn't even that great. Anyway, this is not important. She was kind of stocky, too. She was like one of these women who has like a really, solid build. I'm not into that. I'm not into a solid build. If you got a little bit extra, but I really kind of prefer, and I don't want to get too much into that, but she was, she had one feature going for her, and I'm not, anyway. So this girl asked him to the turnaround dance, and from then on, he was smitten. And all of a sudden, and we had a little friend group, but we were probably the best friends in there. Well, maybe. I don't know if that was true. That's how I felt. But, suddenly, he didn't want to hang out with us, didn't want to hang out. He was nowhere to be found, MIA. We didn't see him for the rest of the high school, really. Never really hung out with us. And even when he did, he was always texting her, and he was also always flexing his girlfriend. We would, beat him in Monopoly, and he would be like, "Oh, well, I have a girlfriend." It's like, "Go, congratulations." He's like, "Oh, well, I have sex with my girlfriend." "Oh, congratulations, what do you want us to say?" This guy, do you really need that? It's like you got your ass kicked in Monopoly, now you're going to flex because, you, have sex with your girlfriend? Yeah, congratulations, right? Anyway, but that is just a stupid thing that would, the dumb detail. But she never liked me, and she didn't like me because I was conservative, and she was always undermining me, and, this is somebody who now won't even talk to me, blocked me on everything because liberal girlfriend doesn't like me. And that's the first simp. I'm damaged because of it. When people ask me, years into the future, people ask me, "Why do you hate simps so much?" And you'll have one of these flashback moments. What do you have against them? Who hurt you, you know? And it'll flash back. Nick in high school, best friend, turns into a simp. No time for his friends. And a lot of cases like that, and a lot of cases where it's the same thing.
Into the Thick. Into the Thick was a short-lived series run by Baked Alaska. Nick collaborated with him in episode 2. In this episode, he gets kissed by a girl and seems to be really uncomfortable with it.
This way?
You can use me. All right.
Okay, ready?
Go for it. Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it.
I'm wearing jeans.
This is something. Wow.
What?
Are you a dancer?
I am a dancer.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Can
I have a hug?
No, you cannot.
Why?
Because I do bones. Have
You do
ever
bones?
pulled up straight?
Well, this is a separate. See, I hope.
Oh, okay, is that the same thing? Is that the same thing?
Actually, it's a lot more comfortable.
Really?
Yeah.
Try it again.
Eminem's my husband.
Really?
Finding different personalities.
on the cheek?
Kiss me on the cheek. All right, that's interesting. How's your relationship with your father?
Test tube baby. Nick Fuentes is a test tube baby. Enough said.
Well, it is true I'm a test tube baby, but I'm a test tube human. I'm a test tube adult, okay? I'm a test tube human baby. Yeah, I know. I gotta tell my mom to repent for that, because I don't think she ever repented for that. That's a sin, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I was in vitro, which I don't know what to believe about that. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that like I shouldn't have been born, but I was, and I made a difference in a good way? Or is that like I shouldn't have been born and because I'm going to be, you know, Hitler too, in a bad way, in a bad way? Yeah, I was grown in a laboratory. Maybe that's why I am the way that I am. Maybe they spilled Chemical X, you know, it's like the Powerpuff Girls. Sugar, spice, and everything nice. Uh-oh, there goes the racism. There goes the anti-Semitism sauce. There it goes. Oh, shit, we poured all this racism in the mix. Damn it.
Little B. Little B the Based God is an American rapper who created the word based that Nick Fuentes likes to use. Little B has also reposted Nick Fuentes memes onto his Twitter account. And finally, Nick Fuentes is a figment of my imagination refers to a super chat Nick received in which a fan was happy to meet him in real life and to finally know the truth that Nick Fuentes is real and not psychosis-induced.
Epic Rocket Man says, saw you after your YouTube ban. Glad you turned out to be definitely real and not psychosis-induced. Yeah, I guess that's good. I hope that you're real. Sometimes I think to myself, sometimes I'm like, I swear on my life that I think about this all the time. Like, I hope that everything that's happening to me is real and not like a really convincing psychosis, not like a really convincing delusion. Sometimes I think to myself that I'm really just in like, I'm in the basement now. But sometimes I think to myself that I'm like in the basement and I'm like mentally challenged. And in my head, I've got this universe going on where I'm like hosting this big stream. And I've got all this stuff going on, and like, oh, everyone's watching my show, and I'm leading this movement. But in reality, it's like I'm playing with Power Ranger figurines or something. I'm like, Mom, I'm going on tour, and my mom's like, wow, that's really nice, and then she's like crying because I'm totally not going on tour. I like can't even, I'm seeing a physical therapist so that I can like, go grocery shopping. I'm seeing like some kind of specialist so that I can live like a somewhat normal life, and like some kind of assisted living situation. I think that all the time. I'm like, what if none of it is real? What if it's all just like this elaborate delusion, and outside of my brain, I just sound like a retard. I just sound like some babbling retard, and everyone's just humoring me. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that's not the case, but I do think about that a lot. Every now and again, I'm like, how can you really know? How can you really know? In my brain, I'm sounding like super smart and I've got it all figured out and everything. But then everyone's looking at me and they're like, I'm like drooling. I'm like, I'm on one of those like rubber cushions and I'm like bouncing up and down, you know. I hope to God, I hope that's not true.
And that concludes the Nick Fuentes Iceberg. For now. I know there are some things that didn't make the cut, like the Groiper War Prophecy, Kanye, Jada McNeil. Perhaps I'll make a sequel in the future, or maybe make a Lost Fragments video or TikTok series where I go over topics that didn't make it into this video. If you want extra content and want to throw a couple shekels my way, Patreon and other donation methods are down below. I know this video is different from my other videos, so let me know what you think. Are there any other figures like Nick I should make an Iceberg video on? Maybe like Destiny or Vosh or someone? I don't know. Drop a like, sub, turn that freaking notification bell on, and yeah, bye.